we got our citizenship in New Zealand, probably about October 2016. And then in November 2016, I was in Australia.
I'm Dr. CHAMONIX Blanche, ex-corporate and academical, turned CEO and board member of several companies and mother of 4 little extraordinary kids. But it wasn't that long ago that I lacked the confidence, the know-how, and the time to focus on designing and really going after the life that I so wanted to live. A life of freedom, of fairness, and of being fair dinkum to who I really was and what I wanted to get out of this fleeting time that we have on Mother Earth. Fast forward to many lessons learned and moving halfway around the world to the most amazing country, you'll see the life that I now live. One that gives me more safety and freedom than I ever thought would be possible, and that really only existed as a daydream while I was living in South Africa. I created CHAMONIX TV to give you true spot advice on how you can also live a life in this amazing country, and so that you can see how another couple like us now live in Australia with 4 little kids here in Down Under. And I'll be providing you with step-by-step strategies so that you can make your Aussie dream a reality too. If you're a keen future Aussie who's looking to create a life that excites you and offers you safety, freedom, and opportunity, you have come to the right place, my friend. Welcome aboard.
Hi, Peter. Thank you so much for joining us. You're in Melbourne today. How's the weather going there?
Melbourne has really been putting on an amazing show for us today and yesterday. Melbourne is generally a bit of a moody city, so it goes up and down in the blink of an eye. You literally, I sometimes refer to her as a bit of a bipolar. I won't say the word that goes attached to it, but it's a B with an H. She's a bit bipolar.
I know where you're going with that one. And Melbourne, how long has Melbourne been home for you?
I've only moved here officially since 2016. I moved here in 2016 for 2 years and then moved back to New Zealand, where I stayed for 14 years, and then moved back again to Australia in 2018. In 1 year, the same year, I moved back and forth. So immigrated 4 times in total now.
Wow. I hope you're doing something like migration related for your business, because you've got the experience. You might as well just, make it your job.
I'm telling you, it's like moving house now. It's just like, oh, we're moving to another country. Okay, cool, let's go. Let's just do it.
Let's pack the bags and it's like going for a coffee,
Yeah, easy. Oh, which country? Okay, yeah, let's go. When are we going? In a month's time? Okay, easy. I'll find a job in 2 weeks, no problem.
You see, but that's the attitude, and that's the way. I'm so glad that we're talking to you, because you can now give that like life experience to our viewers and share with them that it is just. I know it's hard and it's all but if you really think about it, it should be just an easy move. You just go, you find another job, you just, it's just sort of that's the way you roll, kind of thing. How. Like when the first time you moved countries, which was from South Africa to New Zealand, is that right?
Yes. Yeah.
So how did that compare to the last time you moved? So from New Zealand to Australia, back to Melbourne?
The first time moving to New Zealand was very scary because I went there without a job. And I've heard many people being told that they were pushed back and sent back to South Africa when they arrived at the airport. But thankfully, my dad was already staying there at the time. He was there for about 2 years prior to me. And I could say that I'm coming to him for a holiday, which wasn't the case. But anyway, that's another conversation. But I actually went there following my ex-wife. Herself and her family immigrated there, and she decided, okay, she's rather wanting to live there than live in South Africa. I tried to convince her to stay, and she said, no, I want to be with my family. And I was like, okay, seeing my dad's there, it's probably meant to be. And within about 2 months of her leaving, I was in New Zealand. And it was challenging. I mean, the first few months, I had to find a job as soon as possible because I couldn't depend on anybody else to make a living. And thankfully, I had quite a bit of experience in sales and a lot of experience in most of my experience in what I've done in the past was in banking. I've worked for Old Mutual and Netcall I was a financial advisor for Old Mutual as well at one stage. So I've done a bit of that sort of financial services and management. So I went straight into New Zealand, and it was challenging because I had to take a step back, because I've been a manager at the time for 5 years in South Africa in Old Mutual. And then moving to New Zealand, you literally have to go with an open mind, and you have to be willing to say, look, I'm new to this country. I have to prove myself to these people and show them my worth and prove my value before actually expecting them to progress me in their business. So I went in with that mindset, and my first job I had was a tele-salesperson, as selling FPOS machines, which I had no idea, because South Africa wasn't big on FPOS at the time. And when I moved there, I was like, what is an FPOS machine? Can you just explain this to me before I start selling this? Nonetheless, I got my visa based on my technical sales skills and ability, which was interesting because, finding that job in the first place was an interesting experience, because I was looking for work, applying everywhere, and they were all saying you need a visa before we can give you a job. And then someone from my church I belonged to said, hey, we've got someone who's a recruiter. Get in touch with her. We know someone that's a family friend, and just talk to her about your experience and see what she can possibly do. So I sat down and I spoke to her, and she interviewed me. And because of my sales experience, and I guess I'm somewhat charming, she liked me, and then made an agreement with another business to help with my visa to get me into the workplace. So it was quite a long interview experience, back and forth. Interviewed with the HR manager, with the general manager, with everybody basically before they actually offered me the job officially. And then eventually I got the job, and then the process from there was obviously getting your visa and stuff in place before you can actually start working. So I did that, and New Zealand's pretty quick. They tend to do things really fast.
So you went over on a holiday visa first?
Holiday visa first, yep. And then after that, I applied for my work permit, which I got within about a month. And then started working in November 2007. I arrived there in September 2007 and started working in November. And never looked back. Within 3 months of me working there, I became the top salesperson. And then after about a year of working there, I became the manager of that team, and then moved onwards from there. So, yeah.
That's awesome. Wow, well done. And you stayed with the same company then all the time when you were in New Zealand? And then what happened for the move to Australia?
No, actually, I was only with that company for about 3 years. And after they went through a bit of a tumultuous season with the 2008
global
economy,
financial crisis,
Yeah, that's right. They then did a restructure, and they came together with another company. They merged with another company. And that other company had different ways of work, and then a whole lot of different stuff happened, and they moved on to a different company. And then that different company said, okay, we don't need so many people, so they made me redundant. And it was a real blessing, though, because I then applied for another job, because I didn't want to move around to different companies too much. I applied for another job within the banking space again, because that's where most of my experience was. So I applied for a job with the Bank of New Zealand, and got offered the job as a team manager there. So I worked there for another 3 years with Bank of New Zealand. But then I came to a point where I was so sick and tired of working in the contact center space. I wanted to see people face to face. Although I had my staff that was reporting to me and I was working with them, I just wanted to get out of that space. But also my ex-wife wanted to study full time. So we then left Auckland, where we were staying, and moved to another smaller city called Hamilton, so we could afford the rent while she studies full time. So she went to study beauty therapy, and I was working then as an account manager. I took a big pay cut because I wanted to change careers. And then I moved into an account manager role for selling photocopiers. So I was going face-to-face, business-to-business, basically door knocking for new clients and calling, like just trying my best to try and get business in. But then one of my clients actually was a real estate firm. And the real estate firm really liked me, and they were like, hey, we like your style, we like the way you present, etc. Would you like a job with us over here? I was like, okay, I've always thought about real estate, but I can't pay for my studies and stuff. And they said, no, don't worry, meet with their directors. If they like you, we'll pay for your studies and everything. You don't have to worry about that. Yeah, and then I worked in real estate. Then I spent about 3 years in real estate in New Zealand. I worked in Hamilton, then we moved to a town called Taupo in central North Island of New Zealand, which was beautiful, really nice, beautiful lake holiday town. I sold real estate there, and I became an auctioneer, and did really well there. Did lots of sales in real estate, but then my eldest daughter got sick. This is coming to my point of why we moved to Australia. My eldest daughter started to get really sick, and we couldn't find any doctors in that small town that could give us the answers we needed to get to what is causing her to be sick. And she was getting high fevers. It was happening at least every 3 to 6 months, high fevers. And she was just not being able to breathe properly, and it was just really not well. We then decided, okay, we can't find doctors that can help us here, and we've been going back and forth to Auckland. I guess we have to move back to Auckland if we want the proper help for our daughter. So we moved back to Auckland, and while we were staying there, I started in real estate again, but Auckland is a lot more expensive to live, and starting out new again in real estate means you basically starting from scratch. It's like starting a new business. And then it wasn't going too great from a real estate perspective, although I was getting clients, but it wasn't going fast enough. I then went back into banking again. And that's obviously where I seem to be falling back onto every time, because it's my history. Moved back into banking, and then I worked as a manager for ANZ in the city, and then worked there for about 6 months. We still couldn't find the answers we needed for our daughter. And we were talking to different advisors and people who were telling us, look, what you're trying to do, we find it really difficult to deal with any new sort of stuff like that in New Zealand. Is basically, it's not really easy because they're not really experienced in a lot of diverse issues. So they suggested you probably, if you can, you're best to look at Australia or America, because they're generally really onto their medical stuff. Right, so then the decision obviously had to be made for us to move to Australia or America, because we wanted answers. So we decided to move to Australia. So I left, we got our citizenship in New Zealand, probably about October 2016. And then in November 2016, I was in Australia. So I came here with no job. We knew some family friends here who were willing to give me some board and lodging for a short period of time, obviously, until my family came over. So within 3 weeks, I had to find a work, find a car, find a job, most importantly, and find schools for my kids as well. So that was quite a strenuous 3 weeks.
I can imagine. Can you just tell our viewers how it works between Australia and New Zealand? Because that movement is a bit different than between South Africa and New Zealand or Australia.
Yeah. I guess what a lot of New Zealand or a lot of South Africans do as well is they get their citizenship in New Zealand, and then after move to Australia, because apparently, I don't know, but apparently the rules and regulations are a little bit more lenient in New Zealand versus Australia. So once you've got your New Zealand citizenship, you can then automatically come and work in Australia indefinitely. You get an indefinite visa to work in Australia. However, you're not a citizen or seen as a citizen, so you don't necessarily get all the perks as you would if you were in New Zealand, in Australia.
Awesome. Yeah. Thanks for that, Peter. Okay, so what then happened with your family? They came over to Melbourne. I assume after 3 weeks, you found a job, because you seem to be really good at just reinventing yourself all the time.
I mean, honestly, I give all thanks and praise to God. It was a real blessing. I stayed in prayer. There were lots of moments of doubt, but yes, within 3 weeks, I did find a job. I think it came down to me having but a connection with someone who was one of my staff members at Bank of New Zealand. I contacted her and a whole lot of other people I knew that may have moved here in the past, and said, look, I'm looking for work. And I think that's a key as well, is putting yourself out there, saying, look, I don't care what job I do. If I need to get my foot in the door, I can do whatever. I can always find another way if I need to move on to another job, or if I'm not satisfied in what I'm doing. But I literally contacted everyone. I even, in the area I stayed, I went door knocking at the shops there, like at Woolworths and wherever shops I could find work. I was just like, I need a job. I don't care if I'm a cleaner. I just need a job before my family comes over. But all thanks and praise to God, I found a job as a mortgage broker, working for a company called iSelect. So it was an interesting journey getting from New Zealand to here. And then obviously while I was there, we then decided to move back to New Zealand, because I think one of the most challenging things when you move in countries is family not being close by, having that support structure. and someone to say, look, I want to go out for date night tonight. Can you please look after the kids? It's not that easy. And being South African, I guess it comes with a bit more of a trust. Trust issues do come in sometimes, unfortunately. You won't just call anyone up and say, can you please look after my kids, like many other people might be willing to do. So yeah, I guess we had the trust issues at first. So we decided to move back to New Zealand, 2018. And whilst we were there, actually while we were in Australia, they came over to visit our family, my ex's family came to visit. And they really liked it here. But then we moved back to New Zealand. And whilst there, they then said, we actually miss Melbourne. We love the weather there. We love the culture. We love the vibe. We would actually love to move to Melbourne. And we were like, seriously? We literally just moved here to be closer to you guys. And now you want to leave us? Yeah. Nonetheless, I guess for us, it's really easy. For me, it's really easy. I just said, okay, fine. We moved back because the health system's better there for our daughter anyway. So we moved back to Melbourne in 2018, that very same year. Yeah, which was interesting.
Wow, that's incredible. But I need to know, did you find out is your daughter okay? Did you find out what you could do for her or what's going on?
Yeah, actually within 3 months of us moving to Melbourne the first time, we managed to get a diagnosis from the doctors here, which was amazing, really amazing. They went through so much different tests. We spoke to all the different specialists and geneticists and sat down and discussed with them what the issues were. And they just, within 3 months, said, this is what your daughter has. And it made so much more sense for us then, based on all the issues she was having from birth, to finally come to a point where we can say, okay, fine, this is, and that's another great thing about being in the first world country is the medical systems. I mean, compared to New Zealand, I suppose Australia is a little bit further ahead. But in terms of their support and the way that they deal with people in the public system, you honestly not tell the difference between public and private. That's been our experience. Yeah. So it's been really awesome being able to be in a first world country. We could get the answers we needed and have the support and the plans in place to consistently support our children and ourselves, I suppose, too. Yeah, so it's been amazing.
That's great. So is she on ongoing therapy or something that you need to be near hospitals?
Not necessarily for the hospitals, but she's got something called George syndrome. Yeah, which is it's quite a unique thing and can manifest in a whole lot of different ways. And so with her, thankfully, it's not as serious as many other children may have it. But yeah, we have to generally have teacher aid care and different support to help her to make sure that she's being looked after mentally, physically on a consistent basis. Yeah, which is really good because it's in the public system as well.
Okay, so she goes to a public school. Yeah.
She goes to public school, yeah, and we generally also we do have different appointments that we pay out of pocket for as well, but then we can claim back from Medicare and things like that, which is also really good benefit from being in a first world country. Yeah, it's
incredible the number of times that I've heard of South Africans, well, anybody, but I specifically speak to South Africans most of the time, of children or family members who needed specific health support and health care, and how Australia has been able to provide that for things like autism and these kind of rare diseases. I just don't know how people in, for example, South Africa would deal with it anymore, because most of the people, the parents that I speak to, say they would not have been able to provide for their children in the same way that they are able to do that here in Australia. And they're so thankful of the support that they have in Australia.
Yeah, it's an interesting thing, I guess. I mean, I suppose if you do have the money in South Africa and you're living in a well-off area and you've got a good job that pays your medical aid, which oftentimes is the case if you're in a good job in South Africa, then I suppose you have that cover. And there's some really amazing doctors in South Africa too. I mean, we were oftentimes, when in New Zealand, thinking we just wish we could have South African doctors to look after our kids. I mean, with no prejudice to New Zealanders, if you will, but just that level of expertise we found, there's quite a difference. And the willingness to make decisions as well was also a bit of an issue, because a lot of the doctors, I suppose, in the first world countries are a little bit more cautious, and they prefer to rather just let me consult with 59 different people before coming back to you with an actual answer. So
that's true.
Boom, that's the issue. You need to sort that out, because we've seen it so many times. Go and do that.
Okay. And how many children do you have? We know about your daughter. How old are the different children's ages now?
Yeah, I've got two children, Skylar and Blake. Skylar is the eldest one. She is 12, and the youngest one's 9.
12 and 9. Oh, wow, gorgeous.
Yeah.
And what do they think? What are they? Australian, New Zealanders, South Africans? What's their identity?
Yeah, I guess there's that mixture. I suppose, I mean, if you look at my background as well, a lot of people are like, what's your background? Where are you from? What are you? And I just term myself as a child of the world. I am a child of the world. I'm a mixed bag. Because in my background, I've got German, I've got African, I've got Italian, I've got whatever you want, throw it in there. But my children generally see themselves as New Zealanders at this stage, yeah.
Yeah, probably their formative years have been as Kiwis.
Yeah. That's right.
And your ex-wife, was she Afrikaans or English?
She's English first language as well.
Okay,
yeah.
So your kids are all English speaking as well. No Afrikaans.
We do teach them a few words in Afrikaans, which has been quite entertaining. Trying to get them pronounce it. And yeah, it's quite funny actually. It's really nice to try and teach them those difficult ones like goed and all those kind of things.
The G and the R sounds in Afrikaans. Yes, they tend to throw a few people. So have you guys been back to South Africa at all in the 14 or what's the maths? How many years have you been out?
14 years, just over 14 years out of South Africa. We've been back once in 2010-11. We went for 6 weeks, which was quite a phenomenally long period of time. But yeah, no, we love being back there. I mean, it was unfortunately the last time I saw my mum. She passed away in 2014. And that's another, I think that's all right. That's another challenging thing about being in another country, I suppose. You can't always go to everybody's funeral, especially even if it's a very close relative of yours. At the time, yeah. So 2007 is when we left, and it's been really awesome. I think for us being in a different country, although we do miss South Africa and Cape Town and the family quite a bit. When we went back in 2010-11. It was really good. We stayed with a lot of different family and did quite a lot of different things. Went to what's the place called? Emerald Sun. And where's that? Anyway, it's a place called with a V. I can't remember the exact name. In Johannesburg, somewhere close to Johannesburg. So we went there, had a really great time. So we went to different things that we didn't do when we initially stayed there before. But yeah, we do miss the culture and the people. So you grew up in Joburg? No, in Cape Town.
Oh, Cape Town. Oh, okay.
Yeah, grew up in Cape Town, and yeah, it's mostly the Cape Flats. So I don't know if you know any of Cape Town's areas.
Yeah.
You from Cape Town, or where you from originally?
No, I'm from a plattelandse dorpie called Secunda.
Secunda, okay, I've heard of Secunda.
Yes, so I'm a Mpumalanga for Southwest Transvaal. So okay. I still remember the old provincial names that we used to call it. But Mpumalanga, when did they change that over? I must have been just at the end of high school, I think, when we started talking about Gauteng and Mpumalanga and those new province names. But yeah, no, so I've been to Cape Town obviously a few times, but I've never lived there. I just admire all the beauty that the mountain and everything around there provides. But each country has their beautiful spots. Like you would know New Zealand as well. I mean, New Zealand's got some incredibly beautiful places, and it's also a wonderful country to live in. It's just a little bit smaller than Australia. The economy is a bit smaller. The number of people are smaller. So, you know, it's economy of scale, I guess, what you get in Australia. If you move to Australia, you have, I would say, New Zealand expanded probably. Or how would you, because you've lived in both, how would you explain the differences, Peter?
I think the difference between New Zealand and Australia is quite vast, to be honest. I feel like New Zealand is probably slowly becoming more multicultural. I mean, they're already multicultural as it is, but I feel that Australia is so much more multicultural in their heritage and history. than what New Zealand is. But yeah, I think New Zealand's got a lot of space for growth from that perspective. And in terms of opportunity, I think New Zealand tends to try and keep people on an even wavelength, where everybody's kind of earning a very similar salary and you're just about getting by, unless you own a business. You own a business, you may earn some more money, but unless you're an executive of some company or really high up in the business or in a workplace, the earning potential there is quite different to what you'd find in Australia. The same, to give you an example, if you're a manager at a bank, if you will, maybe not a branch manager at a bank, but maybe, let's say you're a manager at a contact center or call center or engineering company, you'd earn maybe $70,000 per annum as a base, with maybe bonuses on top of that. Whereas in Australia, if you're a baker at Subway, you earn about $70,000.
Yeah.
So it's like chalk and cheese from an earning perspective and from an opportunity perspective too. Definitely.
Now, what are you doing at the moment? Are you in banking, in real estate, in what's your industry? In baking, banking or baking?
Banking or baking? Well, actually, I've just started a business called Remote Walkthrough. And basically what I do in that business is I virtualize spaces. So I create digital spaces of, for example, a retail shop. If you want to go and shop at, let's say, Aldi, or let's say ShopRite in South Africa, I create a digital space of that shop, and people can actually click on items in the shop and purchase it digitally as if you're virtually there while walking through the shop. What it also allows you to do is you can actually, that can be done for real estate too. So you can also consult with someone as if you're on a live video like this, what we're doing now, within the actual tour. So while you're walking through the tour, you can actually consult with someone face to face, ask them questions, talk to them about whatever product or whatever premises you're visiting virtually at the time. And you can use virtual goggles if you want, or you can toggle through just by walking around. Yeah, so it's quite unique from that perspective. And in addition to that, we've just started another part of the business where we do text to artificial intelligence, video or voice. So if you're doing a training session, for example, and you don't have the time to put it together in a video, we can do an intelligent or artificial intelligent person talking to people as if it's an actual person, just using the text that you've typed up. Yeah, so that's another part of what I've done. But I also work full-time as a real estate agent and auctioneer for a company called Z Real Estate, which is currently apparently the most followed real estate company in Australia. So that keeps me busy, and I'm studying part-time too. So quite a few.
So what do you do between like 2 and 3 in the morning?
I try and fit in some sleep.
Gosh, you're a busy man, but well done. Wow, you have absolutely. What I love is how you've tried different things and just, yeah. I feel life is too short to just. This is my personal opinion. I know that you get some people who, I guess, they're almost born and they know I want to do engineering for the rest of my life. I want to just be a chemical engineer, and nothing wrong with that. I'm just trying to pick any kind of occupation and say, swimming instructor. And that's all I want to do for all of my life. And I'm just like, oh, I don't know. If it was me, I'd like to, yeah, sure, I'd like to try that out. But also like to try out being a real estate salesperson. And also I wanted to see if I can do some IT, and I wanted to start my own job. I just want to have the variety. It's like going to a lolly shop or any grocery shop and picking the same lolly every single time for the rest of your life. For me, it's like, no way. What about the pink one there and the orange one? And I want to know about that big one. And, I want to try the different ones out and see what works. And then if I do like it, go back to getting more of the one that I like. But in a way, a little bit like what the Bible says is, beproef alle dinge en behou die goeie. Try everything out and keep the good stuff. And it's like, oh, I like that idea. So yeah. I'm glad that you seem to have found a niche in this online space. Is it your own company, Peter, or are you doing it with somebody else? Remote Walkthrough is my own company. That's my own business. And I was really thankful to actually get an award or Entrepreneur of the Year for 2021 for Southeast Melbourne recently, which is really exciting. Yeah. Congratulations. That's awesome. Wow. And is it you said like ShopRite and those kind of shops. Obviously, we shop South African based.
Yeah.
Do you do shops all over the world?
Well, currently it's just, I literally only started the business in October, so it's still really fresh. I actually started it based on the fact that I was in lockdown and I couldn't sell any houses. So I was like, what else can I do? I literally sat down and I prayed and I was like, God, show me, what else can I do? Because I don't want to just sit here waiting for stuff to happen and hope that things are going to get better. As the saying in Afrikaans goes, praat is die money, doen is die man. So I decided to do something about it and act on the guidance of God and started researching some things. Through virtual tours came up and I looked into that and decided to buy into the program, buy into the equipment I needed, and basically spend all my savings while sitting locked down, not able to earn any money, which wasn't necessarily the best idea. But I think that what I do is I focus on action based on whatever inspiration I'm getting. And if I'm being guided by God, by being shown to do something, I'm not going to hold back and be like, oh, let's see if it's working or what I'm going to do. Like same thing when I'm looking for work in a different country, I make sure that I try everything possible to find work. I don't sit there and throw a few CVs out machine gun style and then wait to see if it hits something. I throw the CVs out. I make a note of whoever I've sent CVs to. I then call those people and say, hey, look, did you get my CV? What that does is it puts my CV at the top of the list.
Yeah.
And then I call them again 3 days later if they haven't called me back yet. Hey, just checking in. When are you guys looking to interview people for this role? Again, puts my CV back on top of the list. So in addition to that, I'll also contact anyone and everyone I know that's within that same country to set up meetings with them saying, hey, look, what do you do? Do you know anyone who may be looking for people at the moment? Just putting it out there. I'm looking for work right now. I need to find a job urgent. I've got my family coming. Put it on them saying, oh, my family's coming in a week. Get them to feel your urgency and want to do something for you because, hey, look, I need to do this. This guy's family's arriving. I need to find something for him. So that's helped me. That's helped me. So, and it's about getting out there, meeting people and just being different. And I think the most important thing is I actually read a few books. Thankfully, I mean, I suppose after I left South Africa, I realized that I can't just have this one way of thinking. I needed to expand. So I've looked a lot into self or personal development. One of the books I read is a book by a guy called Bob Proctor called Born Rich. A lot of people might think it's about being rich and making money, but actually it's about being enriched within your mind, having the right mindset and applying yourself to do things differently. And there's one of the things he talks about in this book where he says that too many people tiptoe through life hoping to make it safely to the end, never to having lived at all. And that's the worst thing you can do is try and tiptoe through life hoping to make it safely to the end of life with all this shoulda, woulda, and coulda's still hanging on your shoulders, not having been done, and then end up with regret when you're laying on your deathbed. And that's something 100%.
I don't. 100%. Oh, I cannot agree with you more. That's the way that I live my life as well. I'd rather, do things and then find out, oh, this didn't work, like trying out the lollies, as I said earlier, than lying on my deathbed and go, I wish I had tried all of those things and regretting it. So yeah, it's great. I love your philosophy in life, Peter. And it's the resilience that you've built by moving backwards and forwards. It's just been incredible. I'm sure that your children would also look up to their dad going, you know what, if my dad could get us through all of these things moving, then surely there wouldn't be anything else in life that I won't be able to do, because it shows to them that you can go back to the bottom and start up again. And, you just keep doing and keep trying and, and it's possible. You can make a living if you have the right mindset. Like, you just got to put yourself out there.
100%. I mean, quite easily you can refer to the Bible. Everyone's got access to the Bible if you're not into reading books. And if you look at the book of Matthew 7, verse 7, it says, seek and you shall ask. Firstly, ask and it shall be given to you. Seek and you shall find. Knock and the door will be open to you. So if you don't look for something, if you don't seek, if you don't knock on the door, you can't expect things to come to you. Because a lot of people will pray, God, help me to make my financial situation better. God, please give me another job. But they don't apply. They don't ask. They don't talk to people. And if you've not done everything in your power to potentially progress yourself forward, you can't expect to progress. You can't expect different circumstances by doing the same thing over and over again.
Oh, so true. Love your words of advice. So talking about words of advice, if there's anything that like our viewers sitting in South Africa going, oh, this is interesting. I think I maybe shouldn't I try and make my way to Australia? What would you say to them, Peter?
I would say, praat is die money, doen is die man. At the end of the day, if you want to do something, but most importantly, you need to understand your why. I think a lot of people try and do things because they see other people doing it. Like, Mariki and his friend went over and they had an amazing time or whatever. And they're looking at these people having a fun time, but they don't realize the struggles that come along to that. All they see is the Instagram fun and beautiful pictures of the country that they're now visiting. But they don't see the emotional things that they have to go through in the background that aren't actually being displayed. So it's very important to know your why. And when you do come, give yourself at least 2 years minimum to make it through and make it happen. And after 2 years, if you're still not happy, I mean, to be honest, it took us 4 years to feel at home in New Zealand. 4 years to really say, look, okay, this is home now. We love it here. It's great. And up until then, we were still thinking about Spur and hoping to get back to go and have another Spur dinner or whatever, and Cattle Baron and all those places were still festering in our minds. Ocean Basket, etc. We were constantly talking about those places. But then
I do miss Ocean Basket. I have to say that. Ooh.
I think everyone does. But then I think after realizing that, look, New Zealand has also got restaurants and places you can go to, and starting to use their spices and their different things that they use in their food. I guess you come to terms with the fact that, look, I'm in a different country. I need to just move on with my life. And if I don't want to be here anymore, guess what? Because you're still a South African citizen per se, you can just go back. Just give it a go at least and say that you've tried it and do it. But don't go in with the thought of going back, if that makes sense. I think that's the worst thing you can do is saying, I'm going to go, and if it doesn't work out, I'm going to go back. Mm-hmm. Go with a vision of saying, failure is not an option. I'm going to make it happen no matter what. And after 2 years, if it hasn't happened, for whatever reason, you still have an option. You can always go back, even if it means starting out from your mother's bedroom again, or whatever. That's okay. Who cares about what people think? People are always going to say things whether you're doing great or not.
You gotta just step up. Don't worry about the friends who say, but how can you leave us? You're a traitor if you leave us, you know, because I hear that all the time from the people wanting to move from South Africa. But how could, like, we got to stay here and fight the fight? You know, it's like, no, if it's in your heart to want to move to Australia for whatever reason it is, for a safer country, for family, whatever it is, then follow your heart and your head, because there's a lot of head involved in this too. But just be brave. Thanks, Peter. That was just really fascinating to hear your story and your life, how you've made it possible to move countries so many times and still be such an incredible human being and an example to your children. I would love to find out more about how your business is going. We'll be adding your business details below in the comment section, so that if anybody wants to have a virtual shop, either shopping at it or adding their shop to the list, I'm sure that you'd be okay with them to get in touch. Is that right?
Of course, yeah, 100%. We connect shops to Google Maps as well. So if you've got a shop and people can't easily find you online, it just makes it a bit easier, because we connect the 360 virtual tours through to the actual Google Maps too. So it's easier for people to see you online as well.
Awesome. Thanks, Peter. Have a lovely day in Melbourne, and we'll catch up soon again.
Thank you. Nice talking to you. Have a good day further.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.
All right. So thank you so much for joining me today. If you had fun, please remember to hit that subscribe button, and then it'll make sure that you never miss a thing. I'll see you same time and same place next week. Bye for now.